Welcome, everyone. I hope you've just enjoyed the keynote session as well as a coffee and bagel just now. And I hope you were able to spend some time meeting other attendees in the coffee and bagel session. We will be randomly selecting one participant as a winner for the $50 Starbucks gift card. The winner will be receiving an email from us in a few minutes, so please be on the lookout for that. We'll announce all three winners at the end of the day today on the conference platform main page. So please continue participating in coffee and bagel during each break throughout the conference and enjoy the opportunity to meet other attendees. The session you've just joined is titled What's New in Exploring Your HFA, exploring your HAF data with DataViews. As a reminder, you're on track to the ProLink Plus HAF track. And before we start the session, I'd like to take a few minutes to cover some housekeeping items. First, on the right side of your screen, you have access to the chat feature. Please feel free to post any questions or comments throughout the session in the chat, and we'll try to provide responses or follow up individually after each session. Please note that your posts are visible to other attendees. And then here, this is where you can download a copy of the PowerPoint on the session page in the Attendee Hub. You can download this anytime before, during, or after the session. So now, without further ado, we'll begin the session. Joe, please share your screen and at this point, take it away.
All right, thank you, Jim. Let's go ahead and get sharing here. All right, Jim, can you confirm really quickly you can see my screen?
Yes, sir, I can.
Excellent. All right, so as Jim mentioned, this session is actually going to cover two different things. The first will be what's new in ProLink Plus. And since the last time we did one of these was a year ago, there are quite a few new features. We're not going to go through all of them, but some of the, I guess, some of the most heavy hitters we'll go through. And then the second half will be a dive into HAF reporting with DataView. So we'll take a look at DataViews in the ProLink Plus system, what they are, how to use them, and hopefully have enough time to go into an example of how to use DataViews to get some useful data out of the system. So let's hop into the new stuff. So what's new in ProLink Plus? Let's start with the message center. So we have a handful of existing HAF clients, and when we launched, there was no way for agency staff to directly communicate with applicants through the portal, no way for applicants to communicate back with agency staff. And you know, email and phone calls and text and all that are wonderful, but we really wanted to build something that allowed this communication to happen in the system for ease of use, to make it reportable, and so the data is all there in one place. And so we've done that over the past year. We built the message center, which, as you see on screen, allows you to send messages directly to the applicant and allows the applicant to view those and respond back to the agency. When a message is sent, the applicant receives an email letting them know they have a new message to read. So there are essentially two messages being sent. Send a message. Another feature of messaging is that we have read receipts. So if I send a message, I know if it has been read, when it was read, and who read it. And lastly, it is a reportable feature. So we have a data view on messages. Every message that comes into or goes out of the system is reportable. So let's take a quick look at what messaging looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and bring over the agency portal. And so this is the back office of the ProLink Plus system. This is where all the kind of underwriting magic happens. I land on my queue initially. This is a listing of all of the active applications broken down by stage. For those of you who aren't familiar with the system, stages are essentially a series of gates that an application has to pass through in order to go through your homeowner assistance fund program. So let's take a look at an application and what a message looks like in that. So I've got one here in stage 3, which is typically where the processing happens in our system, where we want to get make sure we have essentially a complete application package for our applicants to proceed. And so I'm going to pretend I'm a processor here. Clicking into the application, I can see some files have been uploaded, but you know what? I've noticed there's another file that needs to be uploaded, and I want to tell the applicant about that. So in the menu on the left here in this application, I have the message center option. I'll go ahead and click into that. And on this screen, I can simply type a new message to my applicant, click send, and it'll be away. So, dear Mr. Cone, we've noticed a couple of files missing from your application package. Please upload one copy of your driver's license, to a copy of your mortgage statement. You know, just some random message. Thank you, the HAF team. Thank you for watching me type in a message. All right, so this is what I want to send to our applicant. I'll go ahead and click send. And the message is away. So a couple things on screen before we take a look at what it looks like from our applicant side of things. So notice this message has been sent. Down below where I enter a new message, now we've got history. We can see that I sent a message to the applicant. We can see down here we've got status. We can see that it has not yet been read by the applicant. If I mistyped something or want to change it, I could click on this edit button and go in and update the text, and it would show that I updated it and when I updated it as well. So really quickly, I mentioned that we notify the applicants when they have a new message. So looks like we sent an email. Dear Brian Cohn, you have a new message. Please log into the homeowner portal to read the message. And then we give them a link so they can go straight to log in. So now let me log into the homeowner portal. This is the applicant side of things. This is where they'll create their applications. This is where they'll upload documents. This is where they can DocuSign their application package. Basically, this is what the applicant interacts with when they go through the HAF program in the ProLink Plus system. And so we'll go ahead and log into Mr. Cohn's account. It'll load here. All right. And on my landing screen, I can see my applications here, and I've got a little red icon letting me know that I have new messages. So I'll go ahead and click into my application, and I have a messages menu item here with one unread message. Go ahead and click into that. And here's the message from the agency. So notice it kept all the formatting. We do support, I want to say, bolding and italicizing and all that fancy stuff. So if you have paragraphs and the like that you want to send to your applicants, we support that. All right, so now let's say the applicant wants to go ahead and respond here. And just something simple like that. I will upload documents as soon as possible. Thank you. They click send. And the message is away from the applicant back to us. All right, so now we're going to shift gears once again. We're going to go to the agency portal. And I'm going to take a step back from the application. So on this My Queue screen, which again shows me a listing of all applications in the system, and excuse me, so I'll go down to this application I was just in, and notice I have a little icon on it, letting me know the application has unread messages. So in the morning, when I come in to start doing my work, if the applicant has said something to me, I have a nice visual indicator of, hey, I should open up this application and take a look at what they said. So we'll load up the application, go back into the message center, and look, the message that came from the applicant displays here in blue text. And down here, the message that we sent to the applicant, we have a read receipt on it. So we know they read it when they read it. And then this message that they sent back to me, all right, I've read it, I've done what I need to do. Go ahead and mark that message as read, and the system will say, all right, we've taken a look at that. We no longer need to notify you that there is a new message in the system. Last thing, again, more to speak to than to show. So I mentioned messages are reportable. So we do have a messages data view, which is only accessible to those that have the right privileges to see it. But this shows a listing of all messages that have gone out and come into the system. And very handy to know who's sending messages, what kinds of messages you've gotten. And it's just a way to kind of look at all of them at once. So that is our new messaging feature. All right, moving on to the next one, multiple applications. All right, so this is another fun feature that we rolled out in the system. And something that we've run into with our clients in the HAF program is somebody can go through, well, taking a half step back, COVID it's something that's kind of lingered, right? While it may not be having the effects that it did initially, it's something that is still impacting people. And it's something that is still forcing people to endure hardships, right? So let's say we had an applicant early on go through the program just to get caught up from an initial bout with COVID that impacted them financially. And let's say something happens again, right? Well, we have a way for that applicant to come back and create a new application and go through for a second round of funding, for a third round of funding, for a fourth round of funding. Essentially, we have a way for an applicant to come back and say, I want to apply again, and create an entirely new application. So moving down to the second bullet point, there is some logic behind the scenes. So let's say we've got someone that applies for benefits and we deny them. They can't just come back and apply and apply and apply and apply, right? There is some logic that you can only create another application if your first application went well, right? If you pass through the scenes. So again, there's a bit of a check in place to make sure that people don't just create as many applications as they can just over and over and over. And the last bullet point before we take a look at this is that when we create a new application, we attempt to copy information from the most recent application. So we save a lot of extra entries, a lot of extra data entry in the system. Try to save the applicants some time when they're coming back for another round of benefits. So let's take a look at creating a second application. So I'm going to bring us back to the homeowner portal. Again, this is applicant facing. This is what our applicants will go through. And I'm going to go back to the landing screen that we come to when we first log in. Notice this says my program applications, and right now there's only one here. However, I do have the option down below to start a new application. So when I click on that, it's going to take me to our program selection screen. So when an applicant applies, through ProLink Plus, they have to pick what program they're applying to. We do support multiple programs on our system. And so we first ask, how did you hear the program was being offered? But then below, when they pick the program, this is where the logic comes into play. So previously, or actually rather, Mr. Cohn has an active application to our Homeowner Assistance Fund program, which, let's say for the purposes of this demo, is for mortgage benefits and mortgage benefits only. Then let's say we have another program that is for home expenses only. So because Mr. Cohn has an active application for mortgage benefits, we're not going to let him apply for that again, right? He's already got an application. We don't need to create another one. However, he doesn't have an application for the expenses only program, so we'll go ahead and let him create one of those. So I'll select that, continue on through the process. All right, and I get a little message here. Thank you for applying. We will attempt to copy information from your most recent application into this one. Go ahead and continue. Notice it is pre-populated this form with my name, the county that I'm in, or rather this homeowner's name, their county, number of people in their residence. We'll continue on. We've got some pre-qualification questions everyone has to answer when applying to a program in the system. These are completely configurable and can vary by program. So I'll just answer these quickly with what I believe are the answers you have to say to be pre-qualified. I think it's all yeses. And we'll go ahead and check eligibility. All right, and good news. Another little pop-up here. Congratulations, you've been pre-qualified for the home expenses only program. You're on the dashboard. Some of your application has been pre-filled with information from your most recent prior application. So now I have that second application. Clicking through, we can see that it has brought a lot of information in for me. There are a few things I still have to answer a second time. Like, for example, we don't bring in some of the mortgage delinquency information because we want as current of a snapshot of that as possible. So we do have a feature called the application summary that gives kind of a quick and easy view of, hey, here are the fields that you're missing in order to have a complete application. So they can kind of jump through that and know quickly what they need to do in order to get their application in. Jumping back to the landing screen, now you can see I have these two different applications here. This initial one for the homeowner assistance program, and now a secondary application for homeowner expenses only. All right, so that's what it looks like for the applicant to go ahead and create their second application themselves. Some of you may be wondering, is that something we can do from the agency side? And yes, absolutely. Let's take a look at what that looks like now. So from the agency side, there are a few different avenues to create a new application. In our main menu, I think the simplest is to click Add New Homeowner Application. And that'll bring you to a data entry screen where you type in a lot of the applicant's information, select a program, and all of that. However, if you have somebody that is coming back to apply for a second time, instead of typing their information in here, also have this option for profile search. And so when I click on that, it allows me to search my existing pool of applicants. And I'm going to search for my email address and go ahead and pick an application. And I'm going to say I want to create another application for this guy. And I'll pick the program that I'm going to have them apply to. Notice I only have one option here because this existing application is for the Homeowner Assistance Fund program. So the same logic applies, similar logic applies on this side. Let's say someone's denied and you want them to be able to apply again, this is how you'll create their second application. There'll be some back office intervention, but very little. So we'll go ahead and make these selections, and up here, create from selected. And hopefully I picked a good one to copy. I sure did. And now this applicant has two different applications. And so they would then be able to log in on their side and see both of them and interact with both of them, complete this application that I have started for them on their side of things. Lastly, when I am working in an application, if this applicant has more than one application, I'll see a little view related applications link here. If I click on it, it'll take me to a screen where I can see all of their applications. So I get a good picture of everything that they are doing with us. All right, so that is multiple applications. Moving right along, let's talk file verification. I know, such an exciting, awesome topic. All right, so file verification. What is this and why is this? So one of the issues that our clients began noticing after we stood up HAF programs for them was that what happens, how do I know when an applicant sends something to me that I need to take a look at, right? And so I showed in my queue how when we get a new message, there's an icon there. Additionally, in my queue, there is an icon that we display when a file has been uploaded that we need to take a look at. And we accomplish this through file verification. And essentially what that is that on a file that's been uploaded, there's a way to say it has either not been verified or it has been verified. And if an application has files that have not been verified, we'll display that icon, giving you a visual indicator that, hey, something new has come in. Look at it, and let's clear it out of here. So we take a look at what that looks like again. So go back to our landing screen, and all these red icons indicate these are applications with unverified files that we need to take a look at. And since I was demoing out of this application, I will keep using this one. And luckily it has unverified files. So I'll click into it. On the landing screen, I see files down here. And we have three different kinds of files that can be associated with an application. The first group, the following documents must be submitted with the application. So we have the ability to say you have to upload these whatever documents we specify to even get your application in the door. Then we have a second category, the following documents may be submitted with the application. So this is extra stuff. Say they're applying for utilities and are providing a utility bill. Well, not everybody coming into a HAF program is going to need utility benefits. So if we make that something required, that could be a barrier to entry for some of our applicants. So that's kind of an example of something that may be submitted with the application, but doesn't have to be submitted. And then lastly, the following documents have been uploaded without a file type. What'll show up down here is, let's say we've got like an underwriting worksheet or something that our underwriters are completing as they go through the application. That will show up here. These types of files, and we don't have anything on this application, but these types of files won't be visible to the applicant. Just a way for us to know that they have been uploaded. All right, so back to file verification and what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this group that shows me that I have one file uploaded that needs verification. And it looks like valid government ID is what we need. Looks like we've got a file uploaded copy of ID, but I've got this little red unverified icon. So I could click on this link and it would download a copy of the file and I could take a look at it. But now that I want to verify it, I'll click on this little go to file icon, it'll take me to a screen where I can verify the file. I can say I've taken a look at it and it's good. And I'll go ahead and come back to my queue, or sorry, come back to the application. And now notice that red text is gone. And when I expand, that red exclamation point has been replaced with a green check mark. So that lets us know that this file has been reviewed and is good and is something we can count on for our underwriting package. Coming back to my queue, scrolling down to find this application again, notice that red icon is missing. So this application no longer has unverified files. So good news, we verified the files, we can move forward with this application. All right, let's keep rolling. So what other new features do we have? Several, but the last thing that I will highlight is some new reporting that we have rolled out over the past year. And the three that I will highlight here, there is another new form of reporting that I will highlight in a later session today that is all about the CDF. But what I will highlight today is Treasury reporting. So this has evolved as Treasury HAF reporting requirements have evolved. And it's something that will continue to evolve as those requirements evolve. But basically, how do we get data out of the system that we need to be able to submit our required quarterly and annual Treasury reporting? Next, we've got performance reporting. So it's likely that there are quite a few different people working on applications, from counselors to, we call them intake clerks, could also be called a processor. So how are they doing with their workload? Also underwriter performance. So we let you view of these three roles, counselors, intake clerks, underwriters, what does their workload look like, and how long does it take them on average to get their applications, through and moving on to the next stage. So that's what that performance reporting takes a look at, or looks like rather. And then lastly, payment reporting. So kind of the crux of the entire HAF program is getting money out to those in need. And we'll take a look at a report called Program Allocation by Payee, which basically gives us insight into everything that has gone out the door or is currently scheduled to go out the door, broken down by payee, and then further broken down by who has received those benefits. So let's take a look at each of these. So first, let's take a look at Treasury reporting. So in our reports menu item, we'll go to the U.S. Department of Treasury. And on this screen, I'll have a listing of every version of this report that has been generated historically. Just generated one yesterday, so we'll take a look at this. But a couple of parameters that I have to specify before I generate the report. The first is the as of date. So for our quarterly reporting, right, we want to know data through the end of a particular quarter. And not always going to be in the system to be able to snapshot that data on that date. So we allow you to say, I want to know basically what the state of my HAF program looked like as of a certain date. And typically this will be the end of the quarter. Then submitted stage. So there is, even between our ProLink Plus clients, there are some differences between when we consider an application to actually be in the door. Is it when the applicant submits it? Is it when a processor has determined we actually have a complete application package with all documentation needed for underwriting? And typically those sort of differences can be, I guess, indicated by a particular stage that an application moves into. So the next parameter is, when do I consider an application submitted? Is it when they first sign up? Is it when they push the application to us? Is it when we start working on it? Is it when we start underwriting it? Is it when it's approved? Probably not that late, but we give you the flexibility to choose based on your program details and requirements when an application is submitted. So I'm going to go ahead and download the report that I generated yesterday, and we'll take just a quick look at it. It is fairly data intensive, and it is an Excel file. And Excel seems to be moving a little slowly. There we go. All right, so we give you a couple different tabs of data. Interesting. There we go, Excel. All right, so we give you a couple different tabs of data, and a third tab lets you know, all right, what did you pick as your parameters when you generated the report? So when you're looking at this, it's clear what the data is telling you. So in our application data, this is a listing of every application in the system, regardless of status. And we'll give you when they registered, when they first signed up, as it were, what program they've applied to. We'll give you a series of dates for when they got to certain stages. Based on when you said an application is submitted, we'll give you their submitted date, Based on those parameters, we'll also label those applications as draft or completed applications. We'll let you know if they've been approved or not. And then as we go further over here, we've got our our indicators of social disadvantage. So race, ethnicity, gender, preferred language, the county the property is in, census tract information, including majority minority census tract information. Is the applicant in a persistent poverty county, housing type, property region, zip codes, of course, because that's a big piece of Treasury reporting. AMI, NMI, AMI banding, we do that in the report as well. Again, it's a fairly data heavy report because Treasury is looking for a lot of data from us every quarter, right? And so that's the first tab. It's basically all you need to know about every application in your system to be able to provide that to Treasury. And our second tab is disbursements, right? Because Treasury also wants to know what has gone out the door, what could go out the door. And so we have a listing of all the disbursements in the system, type, whether it is a reinstatement payment or a forward payment, the status of those disbursements, and then we've got obligated and expended indicators, and those are key indicators for Treasury. Basically, what's obligated, what do you have queued up to go out the door, and has also gone out the door, and expended, what has gone out the door already, and those payment amounts. So between these two tabs, we give you all the data that you need in order to be able to create your quarterly and annual Treasury reporting. All right. Next, let's take a look at a performance report. And so just randomly, we'll pick counselors. And so click into that one. Let's see how our counselors are doing. So it's a demo environment, so it looks like we don't have too many counselors in the system, but this first chart, assigned applications by stage. So we can see we've got four people assigned as counselors, and this is their workload. So it looks like Sarah here has 40 applications assigned to her in stage 2. We may want to move some of those around. It looks like she may be over obligated. We do have a feature that I won't demo today that allows you to reassign applications or assign applications to somebody in bulk. So I could go and say, all right, give me all of her applications and let's redistribute those to different folks across our team. Then moving down, we've got average days in program stage. So how long are these applications sitting in each stage that are assigned to these counselors? So these are pretty high numbers. If I were running a HAF program, I would probably want to investigate why things are taking so long. This is a demo environment, so the data is not the best. But this kind of gives us a visual indicator of, all right, who might be getting their work done quicker, who's kind of running into some bottlenecks, who might need some help. You know, that's really what we're getting down to here, is who might need some help. All right, and again, we do have this report for intake clerks, also known as processors and underwriters too. All right, and last report we'll take a look at before we get into the exciting topic of data views is this program allocation by payee report. And so, as I mentioned, this shows basically all the money that is currently scheduled to go out the door and all that has gone out the door. And so this report will typically be at least 2 pages. And the first page is kind of an overview of, all right, who are we paying? What role do they play in the system? So servicers and service providers. So it looks like we've paid some property taxes. Looks like we paid some internet benefits as well. This first column, projected total assistance. So this is what has gone out the door and what is scheduled to go out the door. So as of now, rather as of the date that I specify, how much should each of these payees rather receive? Jumping over a column, how much have they actually been paid? And then we've got this remaining to be paid. So how much, what's the difference, right? Coming over here, we have a way to know how many first mortgages we have assisted, so paid benefits for, how many have we reinstated, sent a reinstatement for, and then number of mortgages assisted. Again, this data looks a little bit funky, but that's because it's a demo environment. So moving to the next screen. So just kind of drilling down further into that data. So again, we have everybody we're paying, but now we've got it broken down by on whose behalf have we paid them. So looks like for Capital One Financial, we have paid them on behalf of 3 different applicants. For Chase, a handful. Property taxes, we paid them for a couple folks here. And then in addition to breaking down sort of the money that's going out the door, we'll also show you AMI, NMI, the account numbers, the county that those are in, and the census tract that the property is in, if specified. And this is, all of these reports can be downloaded to Excel. So beyond just being something to look at, you guys can get it out of the system and, you know, do further analysis, further, I guess, manipulation of the data. All right, so that is our payee report. And that is the last thing I wanted to demo today. So I'm going to take a quick break for a drink of water here, and then we'll hop right into data views. All right. All right, so it's about to get, I guess let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about HAF reporting with data views. And we'll start off with some data view basics and features, really just go into what is a data view and kind of some of the high level ways to interact with them. And so to start, what is a data view? So a data view is essentially it's a data set made up of all of your program data. And we have several different data sets that are data views. So if you can see on this screen, we've got a CDF records data view. So all the CDF records that have come into or gone out of the system. We also generate our CDF exports from this data view. Checklist items. So we have checklists in our system that agency staff have to complete as they move the application along. Those checklists are reportable. We can see what checklist items are being done, who's doing them, when they're getting done, what items might be past due. Disbursements, money going out the door, right? That is reportable from a program-wide level. Expenses, what sorts of eligible HAF expenses do we have in our program? Homeowner applications, this data set is every application, program-wide. Loans, this is useful if we are administering benefits in the form of a loan. Those are reportable program-wide. Notes and tasks, you can create tasks, assign them to somebody on an application. Those are reportable. You can also create a note on an application, just as you work on an application, just leave details of what you did. Those are reportable. Program qualifications, this is more underwriting decisions, kind of underwriting information. Again, HAF program wide, so you can take a look at those. Program stages. That data view is kind of the history of every application in your system. So this is useful for when did applications get to our underwriting stage. You can look at that across your entire portfolio. Just how have our applications progressed? Missing from this screenshot is the messages data view. Again, which is a portfolio-wide view of all messages that have gone either to applicants or been sent from applicants in the system. Data views allow you to, it's actually taken half a step back. Each of these data sets has, at least, I'd say 20 different data points that is reportable. And in these data views, you can pick from all those different data points, what do I want to see? Am I interested in mortgage information? Am I interested in income information? Am I interested in address information? Am I interested in some combination of all of those things? Data views allow you to configure what data you want to see. And then further, they allow you to sort your data, they allow you to group your data, they allow you to filter your data. So really, in my shameless opinion, a nice way to dig into your HAF program data. All right, so the data view screen at a glance, and we'll stay in the back for now. And so the first thing we have is view selection. And so I guess one bone that I have to pick with data views is that the terminology can get a little bit confusing sometimes. And so a data view is the data set, right? So each of these menu items is a data view. Within a data view, we then have what we call views. And another way to think of a view is a report. Right, so this would be a set of columns and maybe pre-filters, and so you can create as many sort of custom views or custom reports on a data view as you want. So that's what this first drop-down lets you do, is it allows you to pick from your custom reports that you have created out of this data set. Second item, quick search. So lots of different ways to access your data in a data view. You can also kind of keyword search for all the data that's presented in the data view. And what what data points you can keyword search by are configurable. So again, high degree of configuration with our DataView reporting. Little more on the screen. So there is a toolbar on the screen. The new button, a few minutes ago I mentioned there are a few different ways to create a new application in the system. This new button is only active on the homeowner applications data view, and that's another way to create a new homeowner application. Otherwise, it'll be disabled. It'll also be disabled if you don't have the correct permissions to create a new application. Next button, View Manager. This is how you will actually create your new custom reports, is through the View Manager. So manage your custom views or custom reports. Export. As nice as working with data in our system can be, I think a lot of us probably grew up on Excel. And so there's a certain degree of comfort and familiarity. And so if you have a data set, we let you export it to Excel to do further analysis on. Turn filter and grid on. So we do have dynamic Excel-like filters you can do on each column of data in your view. And finally, export mark as exported. This only shows up on our CDF data view. And again, our CDF data view, I'm not going to jump into that in this session, but it's kind of a special data view in that, in addition to letting you report on all CDF records that are in your system, it's also how you create outbound CDF files. All right. Bottom toolbar of the data view screen. So pretty straightforward. This is just, I can pick how many rows of data I want displayed. Typically, the more columns you add to a data view, if you try to display several hundred rows of data at a time, you might run into some performance issues just because there's a ton of data coming back, and sometimes your browser can't handle it. And so number of rows displayed lets you kind of decide how much do I want to see right now. And if things are running a little slowly, you can pick a lower number and that should pick things up for you. We see total number of pages of data, total number of records. This does respect any filters you have on there. So let's say I'm looking at a data set and then I filter it down by, say, a date range or something. After that filter is applied, the number of records shown will only be those records that meet that filter criteria. Lastly, I realize I'm kind of doing this in reverse order, but you can jump to a different page, select a page. So pretty standard controls at the bottom of the data view screen. All right, so let's jump into some of the features of data views. So the first we'll talk about is sorting. And so much like in Excel, you can sort your data views by any and all columns of data in there. And to do that, you'll just click on the column header. And if your data view is sorted by a particular column, you'll see an arrow in that column indicating the direction of the sort. So there's A to Z, Z to A, 0 to 9, 9 to 0, that kind of thing. And again, it's possible to sort by more than one column. And so when you hover over a column, we'll display a little tooltip that says, these are your current sorts. I have run into numerous scenarios where I think I'm sorting by something and my data has already been sorted and it's not behaving quite as I want, and just hovering has kind of given me some insight into that. So let's take a real quick view at sorting. So I'm going to hop into the homeowner applications data view. I'm going to pick let's pick applications by county, see what this custom report looks like. Looks like we have our applications grouped by county here. Looks like I've got some sorting by county as well, so these will show up A to Z. And bonus points if you can chat the state that these counties are in. Then I can, if I want, I can further sort my data by, let's say, first mortgage balance. So I click here, and now we'll see we're already sorted by county, so I'm not going to overtake that sort, but now I'm also, as a second level sort, sorting by first mortgage balance, smallest to greatest. So no balance comes first and biggest balance comes last. And through all of our groups, we'll see that that is how that sorting has worked. And to take a sort off, so second click, now we have sorted opposite way. Third click, now notice the arrow is gone, so the sorting is gone. So that's how sorting works in DataViews. All right, what is the next feature we've got coming up here? All right, DataView filters. So I mentioned our DataViews have Excel-like filters. And these are something you can turn on and off within a DataView. They can be a little tricky to master, but really there's a lot of power behind them. So I'm going to bring this, actually going to go to a simpler DataView here, which hopefully doesn't have the grouping done. All right, so now I'm in just the default. This is kind of a standard DataView. And I'm going to get back to the initial view of everything. All right, and it looks like we have 302 applications in our system, right? 302 records in the homeowner applications data view. One of the data points I have here is there a co-borrower. Let's say I'm only interested in applications with a co-borrower. So I'll go ahead and click this turn filter and grid on button. And now my filters will show up. Again, I can filter as many of these columns as I would like. And so let's say, again, I want to know my applications where there's a co-borrower. I'll go ahead and type in the word yes here, and then I'll say I want stuff where the data point in this column is equal to yes. So that's why I say this is Excel-like. It's not quite as simple as Excel, but pretty powerful and similar once you master it. So I'll go ahead and select equal to here. All right, and now what has happened? So notice my record count has dropped to 65. So I only have 65 applications where is there a co-borrower is yes. And I can scroll down, I can see all of these. Then let's say I want to further filter my data and I want to say, looks like we have a lot of junk data in here. So I want to get rid of all of my fake test applications. And for those of you watching along in the audience, when we deploy new code, we do test it in this environment first. And so there is going to be some test data in here. So I'm going to say, luckily, our testers use kind of a standard format for how they name their fake applicants. So it looks like QA is what they call the homeowner, right? And those are fake. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want applications where the first name is not equal to QA. And let's see what happens now. All right, now we further filtered down to 38 records. And now we've gotten all of our junk data out of here. So, you know, if I had some sort of use case to know I want actual applications with a co-borrower, there you go. I've got that. And if I wanted to do further work on it, I could export it to Excel and do some further analysis. All right, moving right along. I think we have discussed DataView filters enough. So again, you can download a copy of this deck. This is available to you. Some of the options allow you to exclude empty values or only include empty values. For example, let's say I want to report on applications with a foreclosure sale date, right? So I could filter for applications where that field is not null or is not empty, right? And that would only give me a listing of my applications that have a specified foreclosure date, things like that. Then we also, for dates, you know, you can do greater than, less than, all that, but you can also specify a date range. And the syntax for that is a little funky, but it is specified here in the deck. So those of you that are interested in filtering on date ranges, download it. Slide 22 will give you a little more guidance on that. All right, DataView groups. So, you know, I kind of got ahead of myself and showed you guys a DataView with a group, but basically what it looks like is, you know, I want to group. I think the most common use case that I can think of or I can see is grouping things by county. And so basically of your data set, it'll put every sort of row that matches that group into its own little group with a header bar. These little gray header bars, if there's an item that we're subtotaling in the data view, we'll have that individual group subtotal in there as well. And so let's take a quick look at how this works. All right, and let's say I wanted to come at this from a different way. So let's say I don't want to exclude my junk data from my data set here with a filter. Let's say I just want to group it out of here. So to create a group, whatever data point I want to group by, I click on it and I drag it over here, and see it says drag a column header and drop it here to group by that column. So I'll go ahead and drop homeowner first name here. And again, probably not the best example here because, you know, most of these groups only have one item in them. But when I get down to first name QA, notice I have a ton of records in this group. And they have all been placed in the same one. I could further group by another element. Doesn't look like this data set has something very convenient to group by, but how do I remove a group? So click on that header that is now up here in our group bar, I call it. Drag it out, let it go, and the grouping is gone. So if I want to group by more than one thing, I can do that. And if I want to group by nothing, I can do that as well. But create your groups by picking the column header you want to group by. and dragging it into this row here. And if I've made a mistake and I don't want to group by it, just don't drop it in the bar and we're good. All right, those are DataView groups. All right, now let's get into, I guess, the grand finale. We'll have to speed through this a little bit, but we'll talk about ad hoc reporting with DataViews, right? Putting it all together. So DataViews have all these features which let you drill into your program data. And how do we put it together? So we put it together with custom reports with public and private views. And so what's the difference between those things? So again, a view is a series of columns of that data set that has been created as a custom report. There are two kinds of those. A private view is something that you create on your own, just almost like scratch work, that is visible to you in the system, but somebody else coming in won't see that report. Let's say we have a report that should be seen by everybody in the system. In that case, we would create a public view. And that, again, is a custom report, but that custom report is something that everybody is going to have in their view or report selection drop down. How do you create these things? So we have what's called the view manager. And every data view you're in has this view manager. And when you click on that, it'll bring up a pop-up window, and that will show you all of the existing reports that you have access to, public and private views. And it will also allow you to create a new one. And I'm going to demo this in just a minute, so I'm going to speed through it a little bit. You can also click into an existing view and see the selected columns. And as I mentioned, you can put some pre-filters on your reports. So, you know, I only want to pull back data that's relevant to the report. You can create a report for that. So in this case, we've got a screen where I've picked some columns, and then on the advanced filter screen, basically, what is this report going to show me? I want applications with no underwriter, where the value for the underwriter is empty. And again, we'll demo this in just a minute here. Creating a new private view. These are the steps you'll follow. Again, demo this in just a minute. Advanced filters, we'll demo that in just a minute as well. Other cool stuff, we can delete views, we can create a copy of them. So if you have a good base element you want to start with, you can do that. And the last slide before I start demoing, and again, I apologize for breezing through this. I tend to be long-winded sometimes. I think this is recorded, so something that, well, anyway. Public views. So there is an administrative way to create these reports that everyone has access to. So, you know, if you're just kind of noodling on your own in DataViews, stuff that you create is going to be for you only. If you create something really cool, an administrator can take that and they can make a public copy. So they can say, all right, we've got this cool report. I want to make it so everybody can see it. So we do have the ability to do that. So, you know, if you make something really nice, and you think everyone should have it, talk to a system admin and say, hey, I feel like we need a copy of this that's available to everyone, and we can make that happen. All right, so in my last few minutes here, what I want to do is I want to do some reporting on disbursements, and I want to do that reporting by county. And so the first thing is I need to know which data view or which data set I need to access for this reporting. And since I want to report on disbursements, I'm going to hop into the disbursements data view. I'm going to land here on a dispersed payments data view, but what I'm really interested in knowing is, you know, what have I paid by county, and maybe what is still yet to go out by county. And so looking at this data view, it looks like we have county in it, but really it's got a lot of information that I don't care about. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new report here. So I will click into the view manager, and these are the existing views or reports that I have access to, but I want to go ahead and create a new one. So I'll click new. And that brings me to the first screen where I need to pick the different columns of data that I want in my report. And so to be honest, what I'm going to start with is getting rid of some of the pre-selected columns here. So I don't really care what my homeowner's name is. Disbursement amount and disbursement status, that's important. We'll go ahead and get rid of some of these other columns. Arm adjustment, that's not really relevant. Program status and stage isn't really relevant to me. What I really want to know is money by county. That's it. So now I need to find a county field, and I'll go ahead and add that. And let's call this disbursements by county. And after I click save, I have now officially created this report. And I have some advanced filter. I can create further filter options, but we're just going to leave those for now. Let's go ahead and save and close. And now I have disbursements by county available to me. So let's take a look at this data view. And what I really want to know is, what does this look like by county? So a good way to do that would be drag and drop county in here to do some grouping. And now all of my disbursements are grouped by county. So looks like we've got 2,000 for Baldwin County, 25,000 for Bibb, 27,800 for Bullock. However, you know what? I'm seeing some interesting stuff, right? All of our disbursements have a status, and some of them are pending, which means it hasn't been paid. Some of them are dispersed, which means they have been paid. And you know what? I really want to know kind of one view what has been paid and one view what is remaining to be paid. So I can come back into my view manager, and with the work that I've already done, oops, I came into the wrong one, click cancel, get out of it. Let's say I want to create it. Let's create a copy of this, right? So I'm pretty happy with the base that I have going, but now I want to do something on it. So I'm going to say status equal to dispersed. So when I have a disbursement with a dispersed status, I know that it has been paid. I'll go ahead and update the name of this copy and save and close this. And now let's take a look at this report that I've just created. So paid disbursements by county, started with the disbursements by county, created a copy, added a pre-filter. And now the only payments I have here are ones that have actually been dispersed. And these subtotals here is only money that has gone out the door. So it looks like Madison County so far is the big winner. All right. So time is extremely short. So the last thing I will show you is, I think this is a pretty cool report. And I think this is one that maybe more than just me in my agency should have access to. So as a system admin, I have the ability to configure data views through our admin menu. And I'm going to breeze through this a little bit. And when I come into the disbursements data view, I can see all the private views that have been created. In other words, these are reports that these users have created. And this paid disbursements by county, this is the one that's interesting too, right? This is the one I think everybody should have. So when I come into this, I can create a public copy of it. And that's all it takes. So now we'll come back into disbursements and notice I have paid disbursements by county, public copy. So that report that I just created to show paid disbursements broken down by county is now available to everybody who has access to this data view. All right, so putting a bow on it quickly. Hopefully you can see data views are pretty powerful. It's a pretty powerful reporting tool to get at sort of all sorts of HAF program data. There are a lot of features on data views that I urge all of you to get in the system and explore. And of course, if you can't quite figure out the analysis in the system, you can always export your data set to Excel and work on it further there. So with that said, I believe that is all for me. So thank you for your time in this first session, and I'll turn it back over to you, Jim.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate everything. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to share my screen. So thanks again, Joe, and thanks everyone for joining the session. I hope you found it valuable. I did just want to remind everybody and reiterate this. This is the ProLink Plus HAF track 2. So I did just want to tell you guys, if you are looking for the ProLink HFA track, that's going to be track 1, and you can find that on the session main page. Please make sure you're on the right track. We wouldn't want anybody sitting through a bunch of these that don't really align with what they want to see this week. So just making sure everybody knows there's 2 tracks, and this is the HAF ProLink Plus track. And as another reminder, a copy of Joe's PowerPoint is going to be available down here at the bottom of the session page. You can also come back and watch the recording of the session anytime as well. Even after the conference is over, you're still able to log back onto the platform for the next 90 days to watch any of the session recordings. There is a survey available here on the right side of your screen. So please provide any feedback you might have on the session. You can type in any outstanding questions that were not answered during the session as well. Now for the next 15 minutes until about 1:45 p.m. Eastern time, as you take a break, you can join the coffee and bagel session under discussions. This is a feature we're highlighting at this year's conference to encourage interaction amongst attendees. So when you click on the discussions item under the community menu, you'll find room set up where you can join. Each room can accommodate 6 people, and you're able to create your own room and wait for others to join if the other ones are full. But please meet and greet each other while taking a break until the next session. Our next session is going to be supporting the CDF process, which begins at about 1:45 Eastern. Coffee and bagel does take place throughout every break during the conference. And during each break, we'll pick one winner and award a $50 Starbucks gift card. So enjoy the break and see you guys next session.